We're only 2 weeks into 2024 and there have already been several exciting beauty releases. I have the new Laura Mercier foundation, the coloured Maybelline mascaras, the Peach Pie powder by Huda Beauty, the e.l.f. liquid blushes and more, so let's do a full face of new releases.
First up is the Hyper Real Fresh Canvas Cleansing Oil by MAC Cosmetics. I was sent this in PR alongside some other Hyper Real products, but this is the first one I've tried. It has a very faint smell and a little goes a long way. The bottle is 200ml, so this will last a long time. It's interesting that this was made in Korea because it feels very similar to other Korean cleansing oils I have. I removed it using a warm damp face halo. It worked really well. My skin felt nice and hydrated after removing it. It didn't feel tight or sensitive at all. This retails for £36, and while I do like it, I don't think it's any better than Korean cleansing oils, which tend to be more affordable. I really like the Haru Haru and Anua cleansing oils. Next up we have the Supergoop Triple Prep Weightless Multitasking Moisturizer with SPF 40. I can only find this online at US Sephora and it's $48. The tub looks quite big at first, but as you can see when I remove the lid it's actually tiny, it's only 50ml. This isn't actually a problem though, as you can see. I needed probably a third of what I put on my face, and as you can see it sinks in so quickly. Here's a little real-time cheek view. It looks like it would leave a white cast because it's so rich, but it doesn't at all. The Triple Prep name refers to hydration, moisture barrier support and SPF. I can't speak to the latter two in a first impressions, but it's definitely very hydrating. My skin looks and feels soft and bouncy. Now let's try the extremely viral Real Flawless Weightless Perfecting Foundation by Laura Mercier. I bought it in the shade 0 N1 Silk. This was £38, which is about normal for a high-end foundation. I'm actually not entirely sure if this foundation is new. On Laura Mercier's UK website it calls it new, but it seems to have been released earlier in other places. Or maybe it's just been re-released after Glamzilla sent it viral on TikTok, I'm not sure. Either way, I'm glad it's been brought to my attention because it's absolutely stunning. It has a kind of soft matte finish, but it just looks so natural and skin-like. I'm blending it in using this little puff by Korean brand Glow. The finish is quite similar to the Rose Inc Soft Light foundation that I love. The coverage is beautiful and it's so lightweight you could definitely build this up. I have seen lots of other people applying it with a brush, including Glamzilla, who was the one who made it viral recently. I do tend to prefer a little bit of a lighter hand when I'm applying my foundations though, so I went with the puff. The finish is very luminous and it doesn't feel heavy on the skin. The shade match is absolutely brilliant as well. I always use foundation to work out my foundation shade. I'll link it in the description. I'm not really a colour corrector girl, but I was intrigued by the new shades of the Huda Beauty Faux Filter colour corrector, specifically Cherry Blossom. The under eye concealer I use day to day is cool toned and I find that it helps counteract my dark circles. This colour corrector is a lot deeper and a lot pinker though, so I was interested to see how it would compare. I did a little first impressions video of this on Instagram and TikTok, and I definitely applied too much and spread it out too much, so I tried to be more specific with my placement this time. It looks a lot better this second time I'm using it, but even on the darkest parts of my dark circles, the pink is a bit too overpowering. I'd say if you're a couple of shades darker than me, this would probably work really well. I popped some of that same foundation over it, and now time for blusher. These are the Camo Liquid Blushes by e.l.f. Cosmetics. I bought a few shades, but I'm going to use Pinky Promise. They're £7 each, so not the most affordable of e.l.f.'s products, but still pretty accessible. I put the tiniest little dot on both cheeks and then started to blend them in with my fingers, but it's just so pigmented. I resorted to using that little foundation puff to soak up any excess. This might be an unpopular opinion, but I do think this is evidence that a blusher can be too pigmented, because the only way to not apply too much is by soaking up the excess with a sponge or applying it to the back of your hand, which I'd rather not do, both for hygiene reasons and because it's a bit messy. Once I've sheared it out as much as I possibly can though, it's a really beautiful blusher shade. As you might have noticed by now, cool toned pink blushes are my absolute favourite, and this is a really beautiful tone. I was in two minds about trying this next product because it's not really aimed at my skin tone, but we might as well give it a go. This is the Easy Bake Loose Baking and Setting Powder in the shade Peach Pie by Huda Beauty. Because this has a warm undertone, I was thinking it might help counteract the overly pink under eyes as a result of the colour corrector earlier, which actually I think it did pretty well. I used one of the little finger puffs to get right in there. I did apply quite a lot even though it doesn't look like it. I absolutely love the formula of these powders, and I know people complain about the smell, but I love the smell. As you can see, this powder is extremely mattifying. It's really finely milled as well, which I think is why I don't find that it cakes. I really like how the foundation shade is looking, so I didn't want to bake anywhere else on my face. I would usually opt for a translucent powder on the rest of my T-zone, but actually even though this one has warm undertones, I think it did a really beautiful job. I used my Charlotte Tilbury powder and sculpt brush just to brush off any excess under my eyes. I might have mentioned this on my channel before, but on a day-to-day basis I don't actually set my under eyes. I have a very expressive face and there is no powder on earth that'll stop it from creasing. Leaving my under eye area unpowdered looks strange in photos and videos though, so I'll always powder if I know that photos are going to be taken. I didn't have a new eyebrow pencil to try, so I did my brows off screen and then used the new Anastasia Beverly Hills Brow Freeze Gel. I applied the gel using the flat end of the wand and then used the comb side to brush them through. The original Brow Freeze is one of the only brow products that keeps my brows in place, so I was really excited to see that they've come out with a gel version. I love the shape of the wand and it does just feel like a liquid version of the original Brow Freeze. It did take a few minutes to dry, but because it's lightweight it didn't weigh my brows down in the time it took to dry. It's very easy to work with and I love that it doesn't leave any white flakes or anything, it's completely clear. Now onto the eyes. I curled my lashes using the Tweezerman curlers. I bought a couple of the new coloured Maybelline Lash Sensational Sky High mascaras. I got blue mist and pink hair and I'm going to use pink hair in this video. You can definitely see the colour after the first coat, but it's not very bright. After the second coat though, it starts to become a lot more visible. I do like the original Sky High mascara, so I knew I liked the wand and the formula. I mentioned this in my first impressions on TikTok and Instagram, but I think the pink formula tends to make my lashes drop more than the blue one or the original. I might just be imagining it, or it might be because I need to use more of this pink mascara for it to show up and it just ends up being heavier. These coloured mascaras are $11.99 each, which I think is about standard for Maybelline these days. I popped some on my lower outer lashes as well. I film in natural light, so it's not as dramatic as it would look if I were using studio light, but you can definitely still see the colour. It was only when I was looking back at the footage that I realised how many coats of this I actually applied. This definitely isn't going to be my new everyday mascara, but I'm using a blue eyeliner next that I thought it would look best with. I've seen so many people on TikTok trying the burgundy one, but not a single person trying the pink, so here we go. I think I am going to order the burgundy one because apparently it looks quite good with blue and green eyes. This next product is the Fenty Beauty Glitty Lid Shimmer Liquid Eyeliner in the shade 02 Peacocky. It didn't look that pigmented on my hand, but I'm really impressed with how it applied to my eyes. The tip is really thin, so it's quite easy to get a very sharp wing. It dried quite quickly as well, so it didn't end up transferring when I blinked. I'm absolutely terrible at applying eyeliner, so if I can do it then you absolutely can. I'm surprised that I haven't seen anyone else mentioning these because they're really good. I can definitely see myself buying some more. I was intrigued by these new lip liners by e.l.f. because they're only £2 each, and that is pretty much unheard of these days. The full name is the Cream Glide Lip Liner and I got the shade Baddest Beige. It's described as a light neutral beige, which I think is right. It's creamy enough that it doesn't drag on my lips when I'm applying it, but not so much so that it transfers. I way prefer a waxy formula and a lip liner, because generally that'll mean that it won't move when I'm eating and it also won't bleed. I'd say this one falls somewhere in the middle between creamy and waxy. It's really nice. The shade is also stunning. I don't think I've tried any of the Fenty Skin Lip Oil, so this is a first impressions. This is the Melon Treat Hydrating and Strengthening Lip Oil. I love the big soft doe foot, but it could be a little bit bendier. The lemon flavour isn't overbearing and it's a very light orange, so it pretty much shows up clear. I blended in the lip liner a bit before I applied it and I think it goes so well with this lip oil. This lip oil was £20, so definitely on the pricier side, but it's non-sticky and I do like the flavour. The foundation and lip liner were definitely highlights for me. Thank you so much for watching. I will link all of the products down in the description. Goodbye.